My next guest here, she is right here waiting. Come on over, Coach Caitlin. Awesome. Did you enjoy that?
Oh, that was great. I love everything that Victoria was saying. I was connecting, I was taking notes actually. And I really love the call to remind ourselves that we are nature. And the more connected we are, the more we understand that, the better we're going to flow.
Yeah, and don't change all at once. Make sure you do little because the kids are not going to accept that. If we were eating really badly all this time and having fast food and all of this and drinks and all that, and we say to it, can you imagine if somebody tells us that? We're like, no, I'm not doing it. It's normal because I'm not used to it. But that little step we talked about yesterday, those micro choice that what Coach Kim was sharing, that was mentioned by Victoria again. So you're here today because you were never behind. Are you sure about that? Comparing and always feeling like we're behind. You were becoming, is what she's here to tell us about. She stands for removing something. I don't know what it is, but she's going to tell us today. She believes clarity comes when we strip away something. I am very interested in that. She is committed to helping families anchor their, I don't know. And she is here to show us that growth has its own something. Caitlin, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here today. Oh, all right, there are the slides. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Returning to our roots. I'm so passionate about this. I think it's so important that we remember our connection to ourselves and the depth of who we are, which comes back to our connection with nature. So I really love that I'm building off of Victoria's presentation today. And I have beautiful news to share with you. You're not behind. Your child is not behind. You never were. We've just been told to measure life by an extrinsic clock that's outside of us instead of our own internal intrinsic rhythm that we were born with, that's natural. And we've been taught that success needs to fit into these pre-planned, predetermined categories in a linear timeline, but that was created by us. It's actually not our natural rhythm. So my hope today is to release the pressure of carrying around these timelines and to release the pressure of trying to fit ourselves and our children into categories. My hope is that you leave this session feeling lighter, with more hope, and that you feel empowered to support yourself and your children in finding your own natural rhythm, allowing yourselves to grow, and really cultivating the soil that we're growing in, as opposed to trying to force a seed to grow before it's time. So I want to start with some breathing. I know we've done a lot of that this week, but I think it is because it's so important, right? So if everyone who's joining today could just sit up.
We love breathing because
we love breathing.
We do it automatically. So when you remind us, we're like, oh yes, breathing. So it's
exactly.
Never too many.
So we'll just take a few deep breaths just to ground ourselves, make sure that we're present and centered here. So everyone who's joining us, if you could sit up nice and tall, wherever you're at, if you're able to shut down your eyes, maybe do that. And then take a big inhale, really thinking, pulling the air in up from your tailbone all the way through the crown of your head. And then a slow exhale, all the way down through the bottom, and then pushing all of the air out at the end. Do it again, another big inhale up, filling up top to bottom, left to right, and then exhaling nice and slowly. Our focus on the exhale is really what can help us slow down, pushing all of the air out at the bottom. And then one more big breath, this time lifting yourself up, maybe shoulders floating a little towards your ears, and then rounding them down, releasing them back. And consciously release one or two muscles that didn't release right away. Often we're holding tension in our muscles and we don't even realize it. We don't realize that we're squeezing things, holding things together. So take a second and just find something in your body that you can let go. put down. And now we're here. So moving to our next slide, I would love if you have a journal with you, if you could take a second and think about a time in your life where you felt behind. And again, felt behind. It's not the truth, and we'll talk about that. But was it in school? Did you feel behind in school? In your career path, maybe it felt like other people were passing by. Adulting, I feel behind in adulting all the time, and I have to reground myself in the truth. Parenting, healing, your to-do list, anything. Write down a place in your life where you have felt behind and 1 or 2 words to describe how that felt to you. So I'll give everyone a moment. And then when you have a few of those words, if you could just drop them in the chat, please, so we can share and see where we might align. I'm seeing stuck or trapped. Yes. It's a very stifling feeling. Yeah. What other words do we have? Stuck or trapped also reminds me of like contraction rather than expansion. So instead of living into our fullest selves, we're becoming smaller in a way to fit into these categories. Lost, the opposite of grounded.
We have 23 people here I'm seeing on my side. There could be more, but I don't think they have anything. What do you think, Caitlin?
Let's give them 1 more second, and then if not, we can move forward.
No, I want to encourage them to put it. We want to see this. Ruth says,
Fair enough, but we're taking off the pressure, right?
Yes. I always felt behind in school, Ruth says. I felt less than.
Yes, I really want to talk about that, Ruth. Thank you for bringing that up.
Anxious is coming. You see, it's little encouragement. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Kim. I agree. Anxious was the big thing that it led to for me. Unhealthy. Yeah. And sometimes even in the negative coping mechanisms and negative habits and self-shaming cycles that we end up in can lead to some really unhealthy places mentally and physically. Thank you. Okay, does anyone have a word or two that they could drop that you wish to feel instead? So instead of feeling unhealthy, anxious, instead of feeling not enough, instead of feeling stuck or trapped or less than, how would we want to feel? What would be some of the things that would be freeing from that? Freeing could be a word in itself. Confident. Yes, absolutely. So when we're confident, then we can step into things. We can expand. Relaxed. Worthy. Yes, I love that one. Confident again. Authentic. True to ourselves instead of trying to fit somebody else's mold. Healthy mentally and physically. Thank you all so much. These are beautiful words. And I think we can feel the difference already in the energy between the words where we're responding to feeling behind, to feeling I'm not enough. I'm not meeting the mark. I'm not fitting in the box. And I feel like I'm supposed to for some reason. It leads to feeling contracted, stuck, anxious, less than. Versus the opposite of that is confident, worthy, healthy, relaxed. So today, we're not going to talk about how do we catch up and fit into that box. We're going to return to the truth of growth, which is the opposite of what we've been taught. So when I thought about this talk, this word just kept coming up for me when we're thinking about being behind. Urgency. When I was a teacher, when I was learning to be a teacher, practicing being a teacher, my first probably 10 years of teaching, this word kept coming up and kept coming up and kept coming up. We were taught, we were trained. You must have a sense of urgency in your classroom. This is urgent. We must be urgent. This sense of urgency for everything. And I really bought into it. I truly did, because it also aligned with what I've always been taught. So the thought of being behind really goes hand in hand with this concept of urgency. And now I know, I don't think that people were giving us this word urgency with negative intentions, but what I should really be looking for as a teacher is purpose in my classroom, not urgency. We're not in a rush. So Urgency implies that something is important. And this is important. Your child's future is extremely important. Your life, your future is extremely important. Urgent, though, also implies a time pressure. So it's really important that we understand what urgency actually means before we start throwing it around in classroom contexts and elsewhere. Something that is urgent is important and time sensitive. So a physical emergency is important. Of course it's important, is urgent. Somebody requires CPR. I'm CPR certified. That is urgent. I need to respond right away. But when it comes to our development and the development of our children, that is important. But urgency is not the appropriate way to approach it. The development of a human is not under the timing of a clock. The development of a human happens naturally and with rhythm. We can no more force a human to become who they're becoming faster than we can force a tree to grow faster. And if we really look a little deeper into the definition, we just talked about the quality or state of being urgent, which is important and time sensitive. And then a force or impulse that impels or constrains. So for me, the word impel, the word constrain, those have similar energy to the words that everyone brought to the table initially when we talked about feeling behind, when we talked about feeling less than, when we talked about feeling unworthy. Impels means to push or to force, and constrain is to hold back. And really, are either of those things what we want when we're talking about our children and their growth? When we think about children and growing, we think curiosity, we think natural, we think light, we think joy, not force, push, or constrain and hold back. So we've developed these arbitrary timelines according to constraints that we ourselves created. So I think that's really important that we name that and we own that. And as educators and the medical profession as well, I think this overlaps in a lot of places, that we created these timelines and said, okay, this is what normal looks like. And that's fine if we want to have an idea of where things should be moving. But we've become so attached to this creation that we made up, these timelines, that now anytime a child doesn't fit into this contrived timeline or these categories, we are pressuring them and saying, you're not in the right place. You're not doing the right thing. What's wrong? What's wrong with you? And these questions are really concerning. So I want to talk for a few minutes about some examples of the results of living under this sense of urgency. And then we'll flip around to the other side and talk about what could we do instead. So I'm a great example. I lived for years with an excessive sense of urgency. I was raised this way. Whatever you tell me what the bar is, and I'm going to go for it. And I'm also going to try to exceed it. And if I wasn't exceeding it, I felt I was behind. I was constantly worrying or stressing that I was behind if I didn't finish a to-do list or a project. And those are things that I set up for myself as well. And it led me to a really intense battle with anxiety that lasted from my teen years all the way through my 20s. I was well into my 30s before I finally started to address it, and it was impacting every area of my life. And when I did that, when I finally looked at it and I dug up what was going on underneath, the urgency, the rushing, the pushing, what was underneath it was, I need to prove my worth because I'm not enough as I am. I got to the point where I woke up in the morning and I immediately felt behind. My day hadn't even started yet. I already had a mental to-do list and I was going. And my day began with such urgency that I was forcing myself through every minute of every day. My nervous system was sky high all the time, always on alert, always in survival mode. And I was running to finish self-created to-do lists. And I was missing my life as a result. And I share this because isn't this what we're doing to our kids? We are we've created these estimated benchmarks based on other children, and then we're measuring our own precious children against them. And when they don't measure up to these societally created marks, we're telling them that they're behind and that something is wrong with them. And what we're really saying underneath it is, you're not enough. And is that the message that we really want to send our kids? And is that also what we truly believe? When we live by the belief that we're always exactly where we're meant to be, then we can find the value in the current moment that we're in. And we can let go of that urgency. So if we look at this, sometimes we can't see a lot above the surface when we're talking about growth. So if we look at this visual here, there's just this tiny little bit of a plant. And if you've been growing this plant for months and months, you're like, where is it? What's happening? Actually, there's a lot happening, but it's underneath. And we have to have the patience to allow that growth to happen. Because if we try to reach in and dig it up and say, where is it? I need to see it, prove it to me, we're disrupting the growth of that plant. Throughout my years as an educator, I have witnessed countless examples of this system pushing kids in an urgent way to catch up to our timelines. So I want to tell you briefly about a student named Ricardo. I taught him in 7th grade, and he was a great kid, loved working with him, but we ended up labeling him in multiple ways: ADHD, first and foremost, and behind. He was failing most of his classes. He was acting out. He was talking over teachers. He was distracting with his friends. He was not invested. He is a smart kid, but didn't have any investment in learning at that time. And so we did what we do. We brought in his dad. We sat everybody down, and we said, Ricardo, you're behind. You're not meeting expectations. We need to see change. And the way that we came about it was we put him on a plan and said, all right, you're going to do this and this, or dad is going to take this away at home. We're going to take this away at school. And we pressured him. And I remember, and I think back to this day, Ricardo in that meeting, little 7th grade Ricardo, because I know him as he's a grown man now, but staring at his feet and just silent, tears streaming down his face, silent. And we, in that moment, said, okay, he's taking it seriously. This is good. His behavior is amplified, I would say tenfold after that. He shut down, and then he acted out. And we kept responding in this way of trying to force him to be to look the way we wanted him to look, and to behave the way we wanted him to behave, and to perform the way that we wanted him to perform. And it wasn't working. This continued all the way through middle school. I switched schools. I ended up working at the high school. A couple years later, fast forward, Ricardo's in 10th grade. He walked into my classroom probably a foot taller, totally different energy, calmer. And he was one of my top students his 10th grade year. And I talked to him and I was like, Ricardo, what happened? I mean, you were a mess the last time I talked to you. And he was just like, you know what, miss? I took time over the summer. He visited some family in the Dominican Republic, and he spent time with his cousins there. He also spent time with some of his cousins at home, and he had conversations with people. And he started envisioning different directions where his life could go, and started just reflecting on himself and who he wanted to be. And he realized going into high school, the habits that I'm in now are not leading me to who I want to be. So what can I change? And he noticed that when he made small changes, people were interacting with him differently. And so we talked about the micro changes, right? So these little steps he started taking, he started seeing different results. And then it led him to, by 10th grade, he was a completely different person. And it was not because of our pushing and our forcing and our behavior plans and our trying to get him to fit what we wanted him to fit. Ricardo needed time. He needed to look within himself. He needed opportunity to see outside of himself and different options so that he could make his choices. So he didn't grow on our timeline. He grew on his own, but it was all happening under the surface. And it wasn't effective to try to rip him up by the roots. I've also witnessed this in friends and family members. Quickly, I'll share about my best friend growing up, her brother Billy. When we were in high school, he was a straight D student, did the bare minimum to get by, a lot of video games, just very checked out. And his parents were so confused because their other daughter, my best friend, was like, we were athletes and we were trying to do well in school. And we were like interacting when engaging with things. And he was just so shut down. And they pressured him, they nagged him, all of the things that we do to try to push kids to wake up and do something. Billy went all the way through college. Even after college, he moved back home. He was he was the guy living in his parents' basement playing video games all day. That was him. In his 30s, something changed. Fast forward to right now, I literally have a meeting with Billy next week to ask him for advice on business plans because he is a huge success in the tech world. He started coding on his own little bits because he was on his computer playing games all the time. And then eventually he found the coding. He realized he really liked it. He started podcasting. He started emerging and then became an incredible success. He travels the world now. He lives a lifestyle that is really enviable. But all of the nagging and the pushing and the pressure were not the things that was going to help Billy. He had some blocks. He definitely had some things that were happening in his family growing up, some experiences he had as a young adult that caused him to go into that shutdown. But instead of addressing that, everybody around him was saying, what's wrong with you? Come on, let's go. You're lazy. He was being labeled. He was being pushed. He was being hit with this pressure that he wasn't going to respond to. So little by little, things were happening under the surface. We didn't know. Some of the time he was in the basement, he wasn't playing a video game. He was coding. And it took its time for him to emerge and become who he became. So here's the truth. Urgency is not the answer. But we're not helpless at the same time, because I know that sometimes, especially for parents, teachers, mentors, we care. Again, going back to the beginning, this is important. We're not helpless. I do want you to feel empowered, but the pressure is not the answer. The environment, the soil, how are we cultivating this seed? If we were to look at Ricardo, myself, Billy, as seeds that maybe weren't growing in the time or weren't seeing the results that we wanted to see yet, we wouldn't immediately look at the seed and be like, it's broken. What's wrong with it? We would look at, is this seed getting what it needs? Does it have sunlight? Does it have rich, nutrient-filled soil? Going back to the previous presentation as well, when we're speaking about a child, are they being nourished with healthy foods? Do they have movement in their bodies? Are they able to interact with all different environments? Do they have the opportunity to see different things, to maybe connect with something? Are we offering them the opportunity to look within, to reflect on themselves, to ask themselves some questions? So instead of forcing and pushing, saying, here's the external thing, go fit into it, because that's that constraint. That's that energy that makes us smaller instead of encouraging us to grow. How can we cultivate the soil? And then the number one thing is patience. If we are truly going to adopt the pace of nature, we can't say, okay, I see the things. Now let me force it into this human-driven timeline. The secret is patience. One more example from my life, and this is a funny one because I was in my 30s at this point. And if you listen to the podcast that I recorded with Kohila earlier this week, I identified yoga as one of the things that really was a big turning point for me in my life. But when I first arrived at yoga teacher training, I noticed that all of the other instructors had this calmness about them. They had this peace. They were moving more slowly than I was. Nobody was in a rush ever. And I was always in a rush. I was always like, if I have an hour, I'm going to try to fit 50 things in it. And there's only 60 minutes in the hour, but I'm going to make it happen. And that was the way I was living my life. And so I looked at these people with this sense of calm and I was like, wow. And my reaction immediately was, how do I be like that? What book do I need to read? Is there an additional course I should be taking? What are the action steps that will lead me to that? That's what I want. And it's so funny looking back, like that I was still trying to force myself into this thing. I saw something, I said I want it, and I immediately drive with this force and this pressure. And I was doing that to myself in all areas of my life. Now I can say I actually have found the embodiment of that slowness, of that peace. But there is no way that I could read a book or take a course or force myself into that. I had to allow it to unfold. I had to let life hit me at the same time as I was experiencing what I was experiencing at yoga, so that those things could come together for me to embody who I became. So I want us to do one.
I have a question before you. Who did you become? Who did you become? Share.
Who have I become? Okay. So I have become Caitlin Marie. Scary, about to be noticed. I just got married, but I'm me. I am going back to that word earlier, authentic. I show up authentically as myself in all areas of life. And I really realized that prior, because of these categories and these things that we created, I would split myself into pieces. This is teacher me. This is friend me. This is daughter me. And I was morphing myself into these different things all the time. And it was very exhausting, very exhausting. So now I'm me. I'm just myself. Hi.
Nice to meet you. Awesome.
Nice to meet you. If I have time, Kohila, I wanted to do one more little visualization with people, but if we don't, I'm not sure. You let me know.
Yeah, but is it short?
I will choose one. I had two and I will choose one.
Perfect.
Okay. We're gonna, I just talked about me. We're gonna stick with ourselves. I was gonna have us visualize our children, but let's do ourselves. So everybody, wherever you are, if you're able to, close your eyes. Picture yourself as a child, whatever age feels right, any point. Ground yourself in a moment, in that moment, who you were at that age. What were you feeling? What stage were you going through? What was important to you at that time? This could be a happy and joyful time, or it could be a time you were experiencing challenges. But bring yourself there. And I want you to ground yourself with that child and notice the pieces of you and who you are that are already present in that little person. Consider what each of those pieces grew to become, because I'm sure you can see pieces of that child that exist within you as you sit here today and what they became. But in those moments, those parts weren't fully developed yet. Whether it's the resilience that you were growing through this challenge that you went through, whether it was that curiosity that blossomed into passion that brought you somewhere. But you were at a different stage in your becoming. Would you shame that child for not being the adult you now? No. Because there is no rush. You're exactly where you're meant to be. So send some love and compassion to that child version of yourselves. And then take that with you so that you can offer it to yourself in those moments when you feel behind, and offer it to your children in those moments when the world is telling them that they are behind. Because the truth is that none of us are behind. We are becoming. And at all times, in all spaces and places, you are exactly where you're meant to be. Thank you.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you. Those were amazing stories you've shared. Thank you. Any questions for Caitlin, Coach Caitlin? Thank you for participating to the audience. They did a lot of participation.
Yes, thank you all so much, so much.
So this fitting in urgency, pressure, where did we pick all of that up?
I think that the way that we structure school is a huge part of it. Again, as a teacher, I was very invested in this sense of urgency that was taught to me as, if you are a good teacher and you care about students, you will have a sense of urgency and you will push that. And if kids are behind, you will pull them. which really in a lot of times is we will drag them to where we want them to be instead of respecting their own journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're a product of that as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you only know what you know, and you end up embodying and teaching. So it's not any of our faults. And I don't think it's done with any negative intention. It's done with very positive intention. But when we remember our roots, which is what we're doing today, right? Remember our roots in nature, it would be the same thing as trying to force a tree to grow in a certain direction or a certain timeline or to look a certain way when it's not meant to.
Yeah, absolutely. When we tell our kids like that are not performing, like they're not getting their exams or tests, and then we say to them like, we have this clock, right? Like we all, as teachers, we have to finish the curriculum. We have to test them at the end, in the middle, and we have to produce grades, and it has to look good.
Yes.
If majority of them are failing, then what's wrong with the teacher? What are you doing? And there's no other help. What's wrong with the child? We might get some labels on that child, maybe, right? Those are the things that happen. But really, we don't teach the kids about time, though. There's nobody who teaches the sense of time to them. We know because we've been forced to learn it ourselves. But like a lot of the time, people will say they remembered everything, but when the timer came on, I forgot everything. I have many students like that. When they were practicing, how they would do perfectly and get perfect, put them under, even just set up a clock in front of them and say, there's 1 hour for you to do this. They shut down immediately.
Pressure.
So what happened?
Their nervous system. You put them into fight, flight, or freeze, and they're going to do one of them. They're either going to snap the pencil and throw it. They're going to freeze up, panic. Yeah.
There's no practice for us like that. Like we don't practice when we're practicing at home or when we're doing that. We don't practice under time. We don't teach them about time.
And then we just throw it at them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to grade you. So crazy. What seems so obvious, it's not happening, right?
Yeah.
Would you like to share anything or ask the audience any questions?
Yes. So if you would like to open a coaching conversation, I would love to talk with you. My email is CaitlinMarieNotice@gmail.com. I believe it should be posted somewhere as well.
Yep.
I also decided I wasn't going to do this at first, but I just am so excited about all of this. And I want to invite some new people and some new conversations. So the first 3 people to email me will receive 50% off of our discovery days, which is 5 full days of coaching and building awareness with you or your child, whoever's seeking to release some blocks. So I would love to communicate with you.
I just got this light bulb moment as you're saying that. Now, you guys, all of you who are listening, maybe you go through one of our coaches' offerings of the program and you come to our October 18th live event. And then you meet the coach and us in person. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
That'd be so cool.
That would be cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. No more urgency. Just be here. You can't take tomorrow's breath, so don't even try. We have what's available right now. So breathe and continue. That's all you can do. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kohila.